Okay, so biases, emotion, and cognition in social behavior. So we'll talk a little bit about this. So the first thing I want to talk about is attribution theory. And there are three factors that help an individual determine whether another's behavior is due to dispositional or situational reasons. So attribution theory is basically a theory that seeks to explain when we are looking at another individual in society, it's basically our perception of their actions. Why are they doing what they're doing? And basically, there are two reasons. There are two reasons that we can attribute an individual's behavior to in any specific situation. So the first is dispositional factors, which are internal. So say someone does something and we're trying to figure out why they're doing something. The dispositional factors would be their personality traits, their experiences, mostly their personality traits when we're talking about dispositional reasons. So what personality trait led them to do what they did? Situational reasons are environmental and external. So what is going on in their life currently? What's going on in the immediate surroundings that is causing them to act this way? So number one, consistency of a specific behavior may lead one to believe that the person in question is exhibiting behavior attributed to dispositional factors. So what that means is if you know your best friend and you see them acting in a specific way, for years across multiple similar situations, that's probably due to dispositional factors, because the situational factors are going to change throughout the years if they're in different environments. But if they're still acting the same exact way in each environment, it's probably due to dispositional factors, because the only thing that's not changing are those internal factors. So the consistency of something indicates that it's a dispositional factor. Distinctiveness, does the individual act in a certain way only with you or in all similar situations? Distinct behavior from case to case indicates dispositional attribution. So it's similar to consistency. If they're acting a certain way only with you or all in similar situations. Anytime something is similar across different situations, we attribute it to dispositional reasons. Consensus of an emotion or behavior with a large group may indicate situational attribution. So if an individual in the group feels differently than the others, it may indicate dispositional attribution. So if we have a bunch of people in a group and we're all acting the same way, the larger the group, the more the consensus, the stronger the consensus. That is a good indication that it's a situational attribution, because we're all different. We all have different internal reasons for doing whatever we do. But the one thing that unites us is that we're all in the same situation. So if our behavior is the same, there's a good chance that this is a consensus. There's a good chance that it's situational reasons that we're acting the way we're acting. And more so if an individual in that specific group feels differently than the others. So if there are 50 people that are doing one thing and there's one person that's doing another thing, that's going to indicate that individual, that individual is acting in that way because of dispositional reasons, because of internal reasons. If they're, whatever the situation that they're in with 50 other people and they're the only one that's doing something else, they're not being affected by the environment. It's more so character traits. And I saw that picture online and I just had to put it on because it's so ridiculous and so funny. So it's just the difference between dispositional and situational attribution in the same situation. So we have a teacher, a girl handed in her assignment to the left. She hands in her assignment late and the teacher thinks, so late, lazy bum. That's dispositional attribution, because he is attributing the characteristic of being lazy to the girl, and that is the reason why she handed her assignment in late. Situational attribution, he may say something like, so late, maybe a family issue. So the paper is late, so he's sort of giving the girl the benefit of the doubt, and he's saying, maybe it's a situational reason. It's not just because this little tiny girl is a lazy bum. Maybe she's having family issues. So that's the difference. Same situation, two different viewpoints. So emotion and cognition both play a role in prejudice. And to the right, the limbic system, that is the part of the brain that regulates emotion, among a couple of other things. So since the core of prejudice is often composed of fear and frustration, emotional factors often lead us to exercise prejudice against intimidating or unknown situations or people. And that's sort of just something that's built in to human beings, which we're going to talk about a little bit down there. It's really something that we can't really control. The only way that we try to control it is through self-monitoring and self-awareness, basically. And some people are better than others. And the ability to, inhibit prejudiced thought actually decreases with age, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So scapegoats are people at whom displaced aggression is blamed. Displaced aggression and blame is directed. The Jews during World War II, for example, they were scapegoated for economic ruin, among a couple of other things in Europe during the 20th century. Scapegoating is a really important aspect of like cognitively when we're talking about this stuff, because the fear and the frustration, leads this prejudice that has to come out in a certain way. So we often direct this aggression to scapegoats for a number of reasons. Cognitively, we are primed to experience discomfort or fear when presented with unknown situations, like I said a little bit before. So for example, emotion processing centers, the limbic center, in the brain become more active in a person who is seated on a bus next to an unfamiliar person of another race. So regardless, some people will claim that they are completely not prejudiced. Some people will claim that they are prejudiced. This is just how your brain works. Of any race. If you're sitting next to an unfamiliar person of another race, those emotion processing centers become active. So despite the feeling of guilt someone may have for experiencing these emotions, the prejudice can be controlled through self-monitoring. So we can't really control what our brain does when we're faced with an unfamiliar situation, but we can control how we act. So that is something, that's something that we actively, seek to do, because, we're aware that prejudice is wrong, or, we're aware that it's wrong, but we can't really control what our biology does, which is very interesting. The next fact is that self-inhibiting behavior weakens with age, making it harder to inhibit prejudiced thoughts as an individual gets older, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, inhibiting prejudice is definitely a conscious effort that we have to put in.